All right, welcome to the Q&A, and thank you for sticking around. Now, I do want to remind us about subscription to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. You wonder why I keep saying it all the time. Well, if new people come in, it's good to remind them. And actually, it does help. It does work. So that's why I have to keep sounding like a broken record. But honestly, it really does help, and it does help us for that mission. The more people we get subscribing, the more people we can reach out to. So if you're here for the first time and it was a blessing to you, please do that. Subscribe. It helps us keep you notified of things that are going on. But also, why we direct you to our website, citychurchlagos.com, is because we do have other content there that you can view, whether it's our sermons or the blog there, where we have written little articles to help us with Christianity and life. Okay, so today was our first in technology. I'm sure in some ways, I mean, me myself watching it, I'm like, is this a seminar? Is this a sermon? You know, and hopefully the depth of the topic itself was, pushed us to stretch our minds, but also to think about it, because the truth is, even if we think this thing is too deep, technology is all around our lives. And so hope that was at least a good enough start to then take us into more practical realities in the weeks to come. Having said that, this is where we question you can question the sermon. If you have any question about the sermon, any disagreement, any pushback, what have you, send a question. If you have any question about City Church, who we are, what we do, what we believe, send a question towards that. And if you just have any question about Christianity in general, send a question towards that. So you have the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can send it in the live YouTube chat. You can send it on Facebook comment, or you can send it via Mixer as well. So you have all these places. So I don't know if there are any questions yet come through. Let me see. All right, Demola Badmos. And okay, let's go with Demola Badmos first. Demola says, is this a question? No, this is a comment. Thank you, Demola. Thanks for the encouraging comment. Fantastic. Thank you. Now, this is David. Hi, Pastor Femi. In light of the recent rape allegations and violence against women, what do you say to non-Christians who say Christianity discriminates against women and tries to prevent against their flourishing, specifically with reference to 1 Timothy 2:12. 1 Timothy 2:12 is a verse of scripture. If you just quote that verse itself, it does seem forceful. It says that Paul says that do not permit a woman to teach or exercise authority over men. So what do we say? The truth is, how do I say this? I have struggled with this myself. I won't lie. And during my Bible reading, my morning devotion Bible reading this week, some period of my reading, I did come across certain passages myself that I look at. I'm like, wow, okay, this seems a little bit troubling at first glance. And so if a non-Christian comes and throws any of those passages to us and says Christianity is part of the problem, and then gives you evidence of how people in the name of Christianity and how churches have actually contributed to the misogyny that we have in our society, to the terrible view that we have about women, to the systemic oppression of women in our society, the first thing you don't do is to go defensive. You should not. Because let's even put the Bible aside, that people have been doing this in the name of Christianity, that is a statement of fact. Whether it is, now the question is, it can be a perversion of it, yes, and I think it's a perversion of it. But nonetheless, a lot of the things that have happened have come from Christians, from professing Christians. Some of them have come, I'm not saying what I'm going to say now, I'm going to say some of them have come from the pulpit and stuff like that. I'm not saying that you enter any pulpit and they'll say, rape a woman or something, no. I'm saying that a lot of the ideas that has led to a systemic, cultural, oppressive mode of operation, if you like, has also come from the Christian churches. It's not only the churches, Islam, the mosques, and even people who don't believe any, but we have contributed. And so, David, I think that you don't. If we become defensive, then you can't really. We can't take responsibility. You can't take responsibility. And when somebody says that, I think genuinely, they can just think we're trying to cover up our tracks. So I think the first thing is to acknowledge it. You do acknowledge it. That's number one. Number two is, and maybe I should address this issue, even though I have in a sermon called Sin is Systemic, which wasn't too long ago, that many times what happens in something like this is, if I go and I talk to some guys and say, man, there's misogyny and there's sexism and we're all part of it, they're going to say, look, I have a mother, I have sisters, and I have a wife. I don't in my heart have anything against women. That misses the point of the problem, because we are not talking about how you feel individually about it. We're talking about whether there is a system that you've benefited from. They're two different things. Many times we sidestep this issue because we think it is at an individual level, and it's not. It is at a societal systemic level that generally it is more comfortable to be a woman in our society than it is to be a man. It's just true. I remember when I was in school, in uni, give you an example. When I was in Unilag, later I started reflecting on this. At that time, I didn't see how hard this thing must be. But each time when would be in my, maybe we used to read at night in the engineering faculty. And just before my engineering faculty is a guy's hostel called, I think it's called Jaja. And then before Jaja was Morimi, a female hostel. And so you have people coming from Morimi that want to come and read their engineering, but they have to pass Jaja. And usually they don't come straight. They will go round to avoid, there's another route that will avoid the Jaja hostel. Is it Jaja? It may not be Jaja. I've forgotten. I don't think it's Jaja. It may be Jaja or it's called something else. Man, it's not that I've been that long out of university, but anyway. So they'll take a long route just to come. Then when they want to go back, because they don't want to take the long route, they'll now ask a guy, can you please escort me to my hostel? Why? They never felt safe. No guy ever asked to be escorted. And those are some of the kind of systemic issues that we're talking about. And they had reason for it. Now, in places where people are not that protected, then you have issues of rape and you have all of these kinds of marginalization. And so I would not want to be defensive, but second, to then say emphatically that Christianity, when looked at properly, does not. It just doesn't. In fact, part of the ways we are going to fight against this is directly affirming what the Bible teaches. And that you want to separate worth from roles. You want to separate worth from roles. One is that worth, we find humanity's worth in Genesis 1:26-27. What Genesis 1:26-27 says that when God created humanity, he created them in his image. It was humanity that was created in God's image. And so that's where we find our worth. All humans are created in God's image. So we point out our humanity there for the worth. But then the humanity that he created is diverse. That is male and female. They are both human beings, but they are diverse. So each of them in their diversity reflects God's image. So we say Christianity teaches that equal worth and equal value of men and women. But at the same time, it teaches that they are different. And therefore, how we then operate in the world, there will be some differences. So for example, Christianity teaches that in the home, that they are going to play different roles because marriage is bringing together of these two different sexes. And so in the home, that the man is the head, but by head, he doesn't mean he's the boss. It doesn't mean he's a slave master, because both of them are of equal worth. Both of them both have intellect. Many times the women may even have a sharper intellect than the man. So that is not the basis upon which why it says the man is the head. Now, if you understand that, you will see that because he doesn't have any advantage, inherent advantage, God isn't giving the man, he isn't saying he's more intellectually superior to the woman, more spiritually superior to the woman. You cannot then say he should oppress. Now, it does have physical strength, more physical strength than the woman, and that has been the source, really, of our oppression and how we then, create the system. But God has not allowed for that. And even when we become Christians, we are bought with the same blood of Jesus Christ, Galatians 3:28. We also have the same spirit as well. And so we are equal. We have to push that. But then also in the church, in terms of church leadership, 1 Timothy 2, I think, does affirm that in the ultimate leadership of the church, there you find men. But it doesn't mean that women should not be leaders in the church as well. It's just saying that the main leadership, the eldership. And so by advancing different roles, that doesn't equate to people being oppressive. It's like saying in a company, the fact that you have to have, I'm just using a company, I'm not saying this is a total parallel, because remember I said the man is not the woman's boss. But that, like saying in a company, just by having hierarchies, that necessitates that there will be oppression. It doesn't necessitate it. You may have oppressive bosses, but you can also have just fair bosses, right? If you say because you've had oppressive bosses, then we should do away with any kind of hierarchy and differences in roles, we should just make it totally egalitarian. Well, the company wouldn't work, because you'll never be able to make any decisions. And so what Christianity is saying in verses like 1 Timothy 2, it is saying that there is structure in the way we should be organized, whether in marriage or in the church. It doesn't necessitate oppression. We can then tell them that we know what brings about the oppression. It is precisely what the Bible then shows happens in Genesis chapter 3. Sin then multiplies. Sin in our heart, rebellion away from God, is what brings about the oppression. Whereas if we follow a lot of the teachings of the Bible, it is constantly like the relentless number of times that God comes against oppression in the Bible. People are judged because of oppression. It's just so hard to then say that that's what the Bible teaches. You can say people misinterpreting the Bible because of sin. It can use the Bible as a just means for oppression, but that doesn't mean that is the reason for it. And so we want to lock arms with people who may not believe like us or who believe like us, to be able to say, let us fight the systems of oppression that we have, particularly for us in this land, against sexism, against misogyny, against patriarchy. All right? Okay. Demola has a question. So God gave us permission to create our world. I'll say to be creative with our world. We can't create our world, but to be creative with our world, yeah. Are there limits? Lately, questions about DNA programming, CRISPR. I only know that to be CRISPR. The more you're going to have to explain to me what CRISPR. I'm not sure I've heard about it. It is which seek to make human disease free, and other things seem to be blurring the way. Okay, yeah. Are there limits? I think a lot of it I will talk about in the third. This sort of question, I'll talk about it in this third sermon in this series. But I do want to point out something I did say in this sermon, which is there becomes a growing sense of invincibility. It wasn't enough for Adam and Eve to be like God. They were already like God because they were created in the image. What Satan tempted them with was to say, what you are like God is not really enough. In fact, you are not truly like God. Let me show you how to be like God. And that has always been the temptation that has made us rebel. And so you notice God is for us having technological advancement to deal with human, the elevation of human problems. I tell you, one of the greatest inventions ever made was antibiotics. Antibiotics it almost instantly doubled what's the word? Increased almost doubled the, is it mortality rate or something like that? Not rate. I'm trying to, the life expectancy, right? Just by that, like, all of a sudden, children, if you had 5 children back in those days, you expected 2 to 3 to die before the age of 10. Just simple. And antibiotics fighting these germs, it's something that came against that. Smallpox was eradicated, virtually eradicated. Smallpox that used to kill, like, it was one of the reasons why mortality rates were so high. And it was eradicated through vaccines, by the way, vaccines that are getting bad names now. I'm not saying you shouldn't look carefully at vaccines, but the way some people are going about it, it's a little bit ludicrous. So God is for that, as you can see. However, the fact that God is working through us to bring about these technological advancements doesn't mean we always acknowledge God. And many times when we stop acknowledging God, we stop acknowledging our own limitations. We still try to ascend to the place of God. This is what happened at the Tower of Babel. It was a technological coming together of minds to try to ascend to the place where God is. And many times that's what happens. So I wouldn't say the issue is let technology go. The issue is we should discover God again. And then that helps us see where the limits are. There's a field when people started seeing a lot of biomedical advancement. People started seeing that we are crossing many, the scientists just wanted to keep advancing. And a lot of people started saying, look, this thing seems to be crossing a lot of ethical boundaries. The fact that we just want to use certain people's lives and other life forms, and we just feel that the end justifies the means. They started saying, no, there has to be the ethics of this thing. And so another field crept up, another field was created alongside, which we call bioethics. Now as Christians, we didn't need that to be created outside. We should have already been saying that we always have to question the ethical implications of certain forms of technology. It is not neutral. Technology is not neutral. And so we have to question some of these things, all right? And I think it's when we either stop questioning or we're naive about it that then we start to give into the sin that makes us want to be like God. And so there are definitely limits. But each case has to be taken on its own terms. All right. I don't know if that, I'm not seeing, okay, I need to refresh mine because I cannot see anything here. Hold on. All right. I think I know what the problem is. Just need to reset my Wi-Fi. Talk about technology, Abby. All right, so let's go back in. I have reset that. Bringing this back. Now I need to find where City Church is on YouTube. I have found City Church, and we're back to the service. And now let me see if there are any questions. Okay, so Love Toby says, can social justice become an idol? Sure it can. Because any good thing can become an idol. Any good thing. What is an idol? Majorly, it's when good things become ultimate things. So social justice can become an idol, especially when your crusade, your social justice crusade, becomes more about you and your reputation, fighting for people, rather than the people you are fighting for, one, and more importantly, as speaking as a Christian, doing the justice, going about your social justice activity because of the God of justice. Recently, I had to tell some people, because there's a lot of anger that is fomenting concerning a lot of the issues that we're seeing nowadays. It's not as though those issues are new. Like, really, rape and sexism new in this country. Like, it's just caught attention. That's what has happened. This has been the case. Sexual harassment, sexual assault of women is being it's as old as Nigeria and this nation is. So it's just that it's catching attention and there's social media to spread it now. Now, but at the same time, as Christians, if you only live in that, or the fight against racism that we are seeing in the United States, and social justice for blacks who have been oppressed as old as that nation is. Now, the problem is, if you only stay in that and you only feed yourself with the anger as Christians, then you can start moving away from God. The God of justice is also the God that still needs to be worshipped. And many times what happens is if we are protesting and we are working for justice, and at the same time we are people of worship, we are people of praise, then many times the anger that we find in that place, which sometimes is justified, that righteous anger will not turn to unrighteous anger and despair. If we are more and more moving away from God, then the social justice and the cause becomes our main God. And then legitimate anger can be transformed into unrighteous anger, which the Bible speaks out against. But also, when you don't see the kind of progress that you are hoping to see, and this is the only hope that you have, it can turn to despair. But many times when you go back into the house of the Lord, when you go to the secret place, when you still keep studying your Bible, then all of a sudden you now see, well, there are better, more positive ways to channel my anger. And you see clearer. You're able to not just protest, but you're able to work at a policy level. You're able to talk to the people who you disagree with, but you know they're the people that need to be in the room. And at the same time, you're able to hopefully persuade others even better. But more importantly, because we would never fully see, I don't think we would ever see a total bringing down of all oppressive systems until Jesus returns. So you never feel in total despair because the things you want to see have not happened in this world. Because you know there's a world that's coming that there will be no injustice. Now, because you know that doesn't make you relax. Because you know that you can keep on with the fight without losing the energy in despair. So I think when you divorce social justice itself, at least for us Christians, from many of the principles that the Bible teaches, it can become an idol. But I do want to flip that, because I know there are a lot of people who use terms like things like, well, let's not talk about social justice, let's talk about biblical justice. Well, biblical justice is social justice. Now, if you say that a lot of non-Christians that use the term social justice and they mean something different, or they are coming from different foundations, different ideologies, I would say I know a lot of non-Christians also who fight for abortion. Do we stop using the word? The abortion movement, they are pro-life, but they are not Christians. They are not in any way Christians. We don't lose that. They have a certain view or certain ideologies that made them reach the right conclusion that abortion is wrong, right? And we can work in partnership with them. But it's the same thing where we look at social, and listen, the issue of abortion is a social justice issue because it is justice for the unborn. And every justice, anytime we think about justice, it's always social. It's always from one person to another person. So it's one kind of social justice issue. So when we're talking about ethnic or justice, or for the issues of poverty, or for the issues of a particular gender, of course, it's always social. Is it always perfect? No, because all the people that are participating in it have one form of sin or the other. But that doesn't mean as Christians we shouldn't, we cannot be mature to be able to, as people say, chew the meat and spit out the bones. Know where we can have partnerships with people that we don't agree to what level. And then the ones we agree much more with, we can even partner at a deeper level. So I agree it can be an idol, but I also feel that as we start to decouple what is idolatry and what is evil from what is good, we should not stop with the fight in whatever place God has called us to be in that fight. People play different roles in that. Some people empathize, some people protest, some people empower, some people work behind the scenes, some people pray, some people give. So there are different things. Some people advocate, some people speak, some people teach. There are different ways we can use our voices to be able to participate in being people of of justice, of social justice in our world. Okay. I think that's it. I've not seen any other question. All right, everyone. Thank you for engaging, except somebody sending a question now. But thank you for engaging this week. I don't want to extend this because our service was longer than normal. All right. So have a blessed week. And please don't forget to engage with our channels. And see you next week. God bless.